Alright, hello there and welcome to the show. If you've been following along, you might notice I've lost a little bit of weight from my head and my face. There's a bit less hair weighing my head down. It's a bit hot and humid here in the upstate New York, so it was about time to adapt to the environment and release myself from some old energy. And so my name is Ian, and I like to talk about the human design system, among other things. So today we're going to talk about a 3-5 right angle cross of the Sphinx. And so before we get into all of that stuff, I'd like to share a little bit about my own personal life in relationship to the Sphinx. Because something that strikes me about this energy is the notion of the mystery of the Sphinx. You see, back in ancient Egypt, we don't know very much about it. There's so much that we don't know, and there's so much that scholars and people kind of pretend to know, even though we really don't have the certainty. And so something I truly believe around this energy of what the Sphinx brings is that it brings an orientation to the mysteries of life that allows us to go forward in a good way, regardless of if we know all the details or not around the mystery. And so the other day I was laying in bed, half asleep, half awake, on my way into the dream realm. And I was listening to a video essay. Somebody talking about this video game called Spore, which is something that was near and dear to my heart when I was a child. I loved that idea of creating a single-celled organism and getting to watch the evolution and participate on that growth cycle into becoming a space-faring civilization, all the way from a single-celled organism. So I was listening to this video essay, and before I knew it, in my own mind's cognition of what was actually happening, I was, instead of listening to the video essayist give their talk, I was hearing all the same words they were saying. However, it was coming through as if it was one of my old friends from high school, almost like giving a parody of the talk, and yet with the energy of the same talk, with all the same words. And so there was this strange kind of like in sync, out of sync, like, oh, this is interesting. This is kind of funny, you know, this is entertaining. And I found myself in a dream space, and it was very strange because it's as if there were these hands, there were these arms holding me down or holding me back. And I began to recognize that I was being held. And the thing was, it was like, oh, I want to get out of this because I feel like I was being constricted. And so if I made any motion towards getting out of these arms holding me back, all the resistance I provided to what was happening was strengthening these arms. So I tried to push away, and they were tightening around me, holding me in. And the moment I started to let go and release resistance to what was occurring, they would release their grip upon me. And so there's a beautiful paradox in there. This notion that when we resist life, these hands upon us, this grip gets tighter because we are resisting the flow. Whereas when we let go and let life, when we allow the natural flow of life instead of resisting what is happening, then we can actually witness these things that we thought were uncomfortable release their own grip upon us because we are no longer resisting the natural flow of life. And so that's a little nugget I feel that connects to the Sphinx in some way, because the thing is like the mysteries of Neptune is that the more we look into the Neptune placements we have in our charts, particularly on the personality side, this is called the misinformation field of a person's resonance. And the more we look into the details and try to figure out how this mystery works, the more we trip ourselves up. And so if we allow the mystery to be what it is, and we allow ourselves to discover what we find along the way of acceptance and allowing life to be what it is, there is the revealing of the mystery. And it doesn't work if you go looking for it. It only works when you let go and let life. And so today, as I said, we're talking about the right angle cross of the Sphinx. This is a 3-5 profile. We can see the third line here in the personality and the fifth line here in the unconscious design. And so because they are a Sphinx, that means that they have the 7th gate, the 13th gate, the 1st gate, and the 2nd gate. And so if you know something about human design, you would know all of those gates reside here in the G center. Now this G center is what gives us direction in this life. It is what actually contains the magnetic monopole in the 2nd gate. And the 2nd gate right down here is part of this person's life path. It's part of their incarnation cross. It's their unconscious sun in the 5th line. And so they have a natural direction in life that is connected with the 14, which makes them a generator. For you see, if anybody has this sacral center down here defined, it makes that person a generator. And what this means is fundamentally there is an inner yes or no. On the inside, there is this sense of expansion and satisfaction. And there's also on the other side of that, the potential for frustration and contraction, shrinking into a smaller thing that doesn't feel so good and it's tight and you know it's resistance. And sadly, most of the world is stuck in that field. This field of contracting in and finding the resistance and finding the frustration about life and pushing through the frustration and dealing with it and generating this field of unhappiness. And since about 60 or 70% of people alive are generators, they are generating this field of frustration that then the rest of the world, the manifestors, the reflectors, and the projectors have to deal with and hopefully not amplify too much within their own system. However, this person has the chance to be a genuine satisfaction generator, to be somebody who's generating a field of satisfaction that you can see, that you can feel simply by being around them, that you can pick up on because it's contagious. The sacral center is called the most pervasive center in the entire body graph. I would say it is literally generated reality, you know, very deep, material, physical. We have to work one step at a time to get up to the next step. This is linear, one step at a time. And so this person has access to that inner sorting mechanism, the inner authority of the sacral center. It's generated authority. Their body will tell yes or no, forward or backward, expansion or contraction, satisfaction or frustration. And so the fundamental key right here, and this is what gets rid of all the resistance. This is what eliminates resistance, fundamentally. This is what allows resistance to no longer rule your life as a generator, is to trust the body response. And it doesn't matter so much what your feelings are about the situation. You know, it doesn't matter if it feels a bit uncomfortable, or you don't want to deal with the conflict, or you don't want to deal with people thinking that you're not worthy of something because you said no. If you can trust your body response as a generator, then you can get beyond all of that he said, she said nonsense and into your own field of satisfaction, to the point where you couldn't care less what other people think. And even your own mind. For you see up here, the ajna center and the crown center, both of these are undefined. It means this person does not have a fixed way, does not have a consistent mechanism for thinking. They could think in all kinds of different ways. It's more about recognizing the patterns of thinking that occur in the world and how to share wisdom in the face of all the fixed minds, all the people who think a certain way that isn't serving them, and being able to offer a fresh new perspective or a different take on the situation that can then bring about a reframing on the inside of another person's mind, because there's an undefined ajna center here. giving that chance to find wisdom around what thoughts truly lead somewhere great and what thoughts only lead to more frustration, what thoughts only lead to more bitterness, disappointment, and anger. And so the ability to get beyond that fundamentally comes from listening to the body, trusting the unconscious. And for this person, being sacral authority, it's right here, right now, in the moment. What does the body have to say? It might say something different 5 minutes from now. It might say something different tomorrow. And that's totally okay. The thing is, what does the body have to say? Not what does the mind think about what the body has to say. Or what does the mind think about what other people have said about the body? What does the body actually have to say? What does the body want to do? This is the key. This is what shifts and transforms the entire life. And it's called type strategy and inner authority. So for this person, the type strategy as a generator is to wait to respond. For you see, in the mind, in this ajna center, it's always thinking that I need to do this. I need to get out there and make it happen, because we're basically conditioned to be what we are not for the benefit of the old world's strategic cog and gear mechanism. You see, the old world was purely strategic. Everything had its exact place, and we could all say where it was, we could see where it was, and you owned your place, and that's all there was. It was the strategy of the moment. And in this new world, we have the chance to be receptive to something that has never been alive before. For you see, you have never been alive before. This life has never happened before. This is the first time ever in the history of the cosmos that we've been here doing this in this way. And we can pick up on that and share something new. And so not only does this person have the defined G center giving them direction in life connected to the sacral, giving that response mechanism, they don't need to initiate, they can wait and trust what the body has to say to the circumstances that are attracted to them. Not only that, they've got a fixed throat center up here. And this throat center is all about communication, and it's all about transformation. You see, this is what I personally call manifest reality. It's kind of a higher order, split second, right now, highly transformable energy. You know, like the fact that I can say one thing in 1 second and I can say a totally different thing the other second. And it's not like reality's really changed, or has it? Has reality changed 100,000 times in the middle of every single word that I've said? Because there's this theory of the blinking universe, you know, as the electromagnetic fields are going into the very center, finding themselves on the outside and going back into the very center. This fractal recursive loop that we find for the centripetal vortex that makes up an atom. I'm getting ahead of myself now, so I'll take a step back into this body graph. So this throat center gives a consistent method of communication. It means there is a voice here. There's in fact 1, 2, 3 voices here in this person. There's a voice of I contribute. There's the ability to contribute something unique and personal to the collective, to the people, to the tribe. There's the ability to communicate secrets of what one remembers. And there's the ability to communicate through standstill, to communicate hopefully through the grace of life. And there's this defined throat center connected to the G center, connected to the sacral center. You see, here we have the throat, here we have the G, here we have the sacral. And these are the only 3 defined energy centers. You see, an energy center, fundamentally, provides a dimension to life. The dimension of communication and transformation. The dimension of direction. The dimension of love. And the dimension of generation. This is where the life force energy comes from. So you see, part of the nature of being a generator is the need to do one's work, is the need to spend time satisfying this motor, not simply doing what other people have asked of you, which can be okay too. The thing is did the sacral say yes or no? Because if the sacral said no, and you went out of your way to do what they asked of you anyway, to prove your worth or to avoid problems or because you feel like you need to be busy and get rid of the pressure, then it's not going to satisfy the motor. It's not going to satisfy the sacral. And without a satisfied sacral, there's no ability to really get a good night's rest and to get good sleep and to really regenerate that energy. Whereas if the sacral says yes, then that means the energy is available for it. And not only is the energy available, it means using up that energy allows for natural, healthy, holistic regeneration of that energy back up to a higher height even. For you see, the thing about the sacral center is that it's always striving to move towards the next level. It doesn't want to be stuck anywhere. It wants to move up to the next level. And you know what? When it gets to the next level, it wants to move up to the next level again and again and again and again. It doesn't want to stop. Sure, it wants to sleep when it's done for the day, whenever it needs to sleep. And yet it never wants to stop moving up to the next level. And it can only do that if you trust the body's inner response system. And so something very interesting about this configuration is that the three of these energy centers, the throat, the G, and the sacral, these belong to what's called a transauric form known as the Penta. And so talking about the mysteries of life. The Penta is a very big deal, to say the least. Have you ever heard about group think? Say when we get people together and they're no longer thinking with their own individual unique intelligence in mind, they're thinking as a group. For you see, this Penta, this transauric form, does not necessarily care about your unique contribution to it, so long as you are providing the energy that allows for sustenance, that allows for continuation along the material plane through time. This Penta wants to dominate the world. It wants to control and it wants to be in charge. It wants to survive. And this person is basically a walking Penta. Especially being it's their cross. You see their 7th gate, their 13th gate, their 1st gate, and their 2nd gate. Here we have the 7, the 1, the 3, and the 2. We might notice the 1 has an 8. It's a 1-8 channel. The 13 has a 33 into the 13-33. The 2 has a 14 into the 2-14. These are powerful life force energies coming out from the cross that are able to not only communicate the secrets that one has learned from being able to retreat into life, being able to retreat into their own space from the busyness of life to make sense out of things. They also have the 214, which gives that ability to powerfully accumulate and fill the cart, fill the wagon with materials to rise up. And the 1-8 is here to make its personal, individual contribution to the group. However, the 7 happens to be their personality sun. We can see right here, and this one is lacking the 31. And for me, this is part of the mystery. Because the other 4 gates of their cross are all full life force energies. You know, they're fixed juxtapositions in a unique pattern that is theirs. And other people can see that they have a tendency to be able to retreat and to find their own space and disappear for a while, to make sense of things, and then to return, to put in the work, and to then communicate that contribution that they've created. However, the natural drive to be a leader from that 7 does not have the 31. It does not have consistent access to the influence of the leader to shift other people in that way. And so for this person to be able to accept that they do not have the most consistent influence upon others, and it doesn't need to be that way. It doesn't need to be with consistent influence upon others. Being able to be a leader is independent of the influence one has in this case, because to lead is to be able to lock on in one's own life to their direction. And this person has a fixed, strong, consistent direction in life that they can trust. However, if they get caught up in needing to have more influence on other people in order to feel their worth, they're going to lose sight of who they are. And so instead of doing that, they can trust their sacral center. They can trust their body's response. And let the mind think whatever it wants. It's not so important what the mind thinks. Not for making decisions in your own life. For you see, this is the fundamental flip that has shifted to allow the receptivity of these 9-centered forms to really be what it is. In the old world, it was all about mental domination, the binary of left and right, right and wrong, up and down, forward and backward. Being able to say, you go over here, I'll go over there, and now we can kill this woolly mammoth and feast. And through the support of the Penta, in our strategic behaviors, we were able to dominate this material plane. That's what rose humanity and human beings up to the top of the food chain, is that we could talk to each other and formulate ideas and strategies in our heads that allowed us to look at the past and look at the future within the present and plan. However, that is no longer exactly the way. That is no longer the only way. It is still part of what we're doing. However, it is not the dominating force in correctness. For you see, now the mind is no longer the dominant awareness center. It is now the solar plexus down here. This is the newest center to mutate, and there is more energy coming through. We'll talk about 2027 at another time. However, this is the wisdom of emotions that is now possible. To be able to see over time in a bigger, more expanded space, in a more of a felt way, through the touch of life. Not simply the binary logic of endless hierarchies on top of each other. Now we're stepping into a heterarchy, wherein there is a fractal self-similarity that allows me to honor within myself. I am of equal worth and value to you, and you are of equal worth and value to every single other person, and even living being, and even inanimate matter, if we can go so far. And that doesn't mean we're the same. We're still different, and yet we're on a level geometric playing field. Because we're priceless. There is no possible number or value you could place upon life and say this life is worth more than that life. Life is simply beyond value. There is no comparison. It's priceless. Perfect exactly as it is, and only in our imagination can we pretend otherwise. And so fundamentally, since this shift has occurred, where the ajna center up here in the third eye this Ajna chakra, is no longer the dominant awareness center because the solar plexus has evolved and it is beginning to gain awareness. It is still a motor pushing energy around, and so it doesn't have the kind of clean awareness that we're used to in, say, the spleen over here on the left, this wide open spleen. For you see, the splenic awareness, we share this with all the life forms on the planet, the birds, the bees, the insects, the trees. This is right now, you know. This is cleansing the body for the purpose of survival. This is the intuition and the instincts. This is even the taste of logic. Not the conceptual thought out framework of this and that and this and that on top of itself with an endless hierarchy. The fundamental taste of logic through intuition or instinct. And then, about 90,000 years ago, we evolved into the Cro-Magnon human, basically, the anatomically modern human. And from there, we began to dominate the world through our logic and concepts. And then 1781 happened, and the solar plexus evolved. And now there's this whole new order of receptivity that is available. We are no longer limited by the decision-making potential of our mind, and only if we can trust the unconscious, if we can trust the body to make decisions. For you see, in the old world, there was the logic of the binary. And now in the new world, that logic of the binary still exists, and it's still useful, primarily to observe the world, to be able to see what is around us, to be able to measure all these things in the binary, and then to be able to communicate that with other people. This is the fundamental purpose of the mind. Like, my mind is not here to tell my body what to do. My mind is here to watch the body and to watch the life around me. To make measurements and to see, oh, hey, if I drop this, that happens, and if I throw it up, that happens. And if I throw it through the glass window, I've broken the window. Whoa, maybe we don't want to break things. That's the fundamental purpose of having these advanced minds in here. It's not for telling the body what to do. That's how we immediately get ourselves confused with our ancestors. The thing is there's habitual energy from the past, genetically, that we're used to listening to the mind. And the world around us tells us, think it through, make up your mind. Because that was the old way. And in this life, in this moment, each one of us has the chance to go beyond the old world and to live a life that has never been lived before. Truly, that no one else could live. And so part of that for this person, I'd like to take a moment and talk about these wide open centers. For you see the Ajna chakra here and the splenic chakra, these two are wide open. There is not a single gate activated on the inside of these energy centers. It means that when it comes to survival instincts and intuitions, when it comes to concepts and thinking, this person has already completed the work in those fields. These first two awareness centers, this is actually a fairly evolved being, if I can put it that way, because now for them, survival on the material plane and concepts and thinking are things that they are here to attune into the nature of the world of today and provide a counterpoint of wisdom for those energies. So trying to imagine, I need to think a certain way to feel strong. Or why can't I remember these things? Why don't I keep thinking the same way? Why can't I blah, 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 blah. That's what happens when the mind is inside out, upside down, trying to tell the body what to do. Is it gets caught up in all these undefined center themes. And these two in particular, because it is said mystically in a previous lifetime, the entire theme of this dimension has been completed. You know, conceptualization, the logical, the abstract, and the individual thinking patterns in a previous lifetime, all the work has been done. It's not about what you think. Down here in the spleen, the fears of survival. Fundamentally, that is a big theme down here in the spleen. All the various fears of survival. How are we going to continue? Not only how am I going to continue, how am I going to avoid death? How are we all going to survive and continue so that we don't go extinct as a species? There is the wisdom in this person. How do we avoid extinction as a species? Well, ask this Sphinx what you need to do, and they could have a response. There is deep, deep, and deeply attuned wisdom potential in these wide open, undefined centers. And that's only if they're able to trust their inner authority and type strategy. Only if they don't feel the need to go out of their way and initiate life because they were told you have to go out there and make it happen. Only if they trust their gut response in the moment. Then their wisdom can unfold in a way that surprises even them. For that's the nature of being a nine-centered human being, is that we have access to wisdom potentials that go beyond our own capacity to conceptualize. I mean, really think about that for a moment. I've heard this phrase that perhaps reality is more strange than we can suppose it is. Perhaps this world is more unusual and it goes beyond our thinking to the point where we can't actually contain the truth in these little noggins. They say you can't handle the truth, and I say that's because the truth handles you. It always has, it always will, and it is right now, in this very moment. There is no avoiding the truth. It's right in front of you. You could pretend to avoid it and then suffer the consequences of pretending in this life. Or you can trust your body, you can trust the unconscious and live for real. For these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 energy centers are pulling this person away from their truth and into nonsense if they listen to the mind and they allow amplification to occur and then to determine behavior. The themes here in the heart center of I need to receive validation and approval from others. I need to prove myself to others. I need to improve myself. It's a mental trap. You were born perfect. There's nothing to improve. Down here in the solar plexus, I need to avoid the problems. I need to avoid the conflicts. I need to avoid ultimately the truth. It's that fear of having to deal with amplifying the emotional wave, you know, it's the dominant awareness on this planet. Down here in the root center, this is the need to alleviate the pressure. You know, the pressure, get it done, 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 get it done. And if they allow themselves to sit with that 52, that 50-second gate in there, that ability to keep still for a moment and to not rush oneself, then that need to alleviate the pressure can relax. So instead of fighting against the pressure and recognizing that makes the pressure bigger and bigger, there's relaxing into it, sitting with it, allowing the pressure to be what it is. And in that allowing, it actually relaxes. Over here in the splenic center, these are the fears of survival. This is the need to hold on to what is bad for you. If the mental amplification program is dominating the life, then, well, at least if I hold on to something that's bad for me, I know it's not good, but at least if I hold on to this thing, this person, this habit, this behavior, this job, even if it's bad for me, I know I'll survive because I'm comfortable with it, even if it's bad. I know it's not okay, but it's helping me survive. It's helping me get through. And that's a fundamental symptom of the mental amplification dominance. Over here in the Ajna center, this is the need to pretend one is certain about things. For this Ajna has no access to certainty. There's nothing it could ever be certain about. It's not here to have those original ideas. It's here to communicate with wisdom which ideas are truly fruitful and which ideas are tearing down the tree that we're trying to nurture. And so by letting go of that need to be certain and rigid and consistent in thinking, the potential for wisdom in thinking can arise. Up here in the crown center, this is all about inspiration in life. This is the pressure to think. And so in the not-self mental amplification system, this is fundamentally, I am interested only in what does not matter. Specifically, this is most important. What doesn't matter, that's what has my attention. That's where I am. Because that's what's most attractive. And that's because of the nature of amplification in this system. And so over time, being able to trust the sacral center down there, being able to trust the inner authority, trusting the type strategy, the difference between what does and doesn't matter becomes more clear over time. Being able to learn how to accept and work with what doesn't matter, as, for example, in my own life, it feels kind of like a treat almost. Kind of like being able to watch some television or something at night after one has done their heavy work for the day. Because as a sacral being, we need to do the work. We need to do our work. We need to do what lights us up and use our energy in order to go forward in a good way. And for me, I'm also a sacral being. Being able to do that work and then have some rest and maybe enjoy something that doesn't really matter in the biggest of big pictures, and yet can still bring some satisfaction along the way. The difference is, does it rule your life or not? That's the biggest difference. Because all these open center themes, all this transference, all this not self pull, does it dominate the life, or does it add a bit of flavor to the dish of the life? This is the key difference. For this person is a 3-5 profile, as we mentioned earlier. So this third line in the conscious personality, this is always pushing to the limit. This is finding the boundaries of things. This is going up against the very end, the very top. Finding what does and doesn't work by testing those foundations through the trial and error of life. There's a deep pessimism that is natural here. That ability to, well, I don't think that's going to work, so I'm going to do this. And oh, hey, I don't think that would work because I've tried it, and I've tried all the various different ways that it can be tried. And so on the unconscious side, that fifth line in the body, in the design, it means this person is receiving positive expectation and projections from other people. It means other people see this person and it's like, oh wow, you would be great. Would you help me with this? I think you can really solve my problem. And the thing is, if this person is mentally amplifying everything, you know, they're caught up in proving their worth in order to avoid the problems, get the work done, while holding on to what's bad for them in order to prove what's certain about what doesn't matter. If they're dealing with that whole amplification system that's ruling their life and all their decision making, then when somebody places a positive expectation on them, they're not able to deliver because they don't have access to wisdom. They're too busy with their own personal amplification of nonsense. And so when they try to deliver, it's not practical. It doesn't work. and the other person then becomes upset. You know, I looked at you and I thought I knew you were good, and then I know you were actually the worst. You were really bad, and I need to make sure other people know so that other people aren't hurt by you too. And that's the nature of the not-self and the amplification system. However, in the true self, if this person is able to trust their gut response, which leads them in the direction in which they can communicate genuine leadership, then they can deliver practically. They can deliver something that is successful for the other. And in doing so, their reputation expands. Instead of, oh, I saw you, I thought you were amazing, it turns out you're terrible, and I need to let people know you're horrible so they don't get hurt. Instead of that, it's, oh, wow, you were really good. I thought you were good, and you really were good, so I'm going to let other people know we've got a valuable resource right here, somebody you can trust, somebody you can rely on. And fundamentally, that difference is found by following the type strategy and inner authority, by listening to the body, not listening to the amplification system of open centers, because fundamentally these open center survival program patterns, these were the mechanisms of dominance for the purely strategic seven-centered ancestors from which we all arose. You see, this was the old world that's still alive today. And that's the nature of making decisions from the mind, is that it's a binary of left and right, good and bad, up and down, this and that. And it misses the point entirely of what's capable, of what's possible in life today. And so it is my wish and my deepest hope that by sharing some of this with you, that you're able to see there is a life waiting for you that goes beyond your wildest dreams. There is a life waiting for you that goes beyond your imagination. It goes beyond your ability to conceptualize and think about the way things will happen. One of my favorite teachers from childhood was Bashar, channeled by Daryl Anka. And Bashar has said that the mind and the brain is not designed to see and to realize and to think about how things happen. It's not designed to see how things do happen. The mind is designed and the brain is designed to see how things have happened, to see how the past became the present, not how the present becomes the future. For you see, that was the job of the higher mind. That is the job of the higher mind through Bashar's teaching, is that through this higher mind we have access to a field that is greater than our logical, rational thinking, conscious, aware mind. And essentially through human design, that's what we gain access to by trusting our inner authority and type strategy. We gain access to a field of energy that I call genetic intelligence. It is literally the intelligence inherent in every single cell of your body. You know, it's the unconscious intelligence. They say there's only around 5% of the information that is processed of which we are aware of. So 95% of the information processed by your body and your brain is in the unconscious. And only about 5% or so is in the conscious personality. And basically what we're doing by trusting the unconscious to decide for itself is we're trusting the superconscious. We're trusting what is beyond the thinking mind, beyond the small little, this is what I know, and into the genetics of the body, into a field beyond ordinary comprehension. And it's quite profound to see with your own eyes the synchronicities of life that are possible. To see beauty that you can't even explain. To know that there are some things that you can see that you're never meant to communicate with another person. To see that there's some beauty that's meant only for your eyes. And it is my greatest wish that you will learn how to see and be with that beauty which belongs only to you. I hope you're having a wonderful day. That's about all I have to say in this moment. So take care, and bye for now. If you have enjoyed the show and would like to learn more about how all of this applies specifically to you, then kindly refer to the link in this video's description, Private Consultation. Here, we can dive into all of the details together in a recorded call. May your signature vibration of satisfaction, success, peace, and surprise find you in a good way.